set. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the European Commission's virtual press room for the daily midday briefing. Thank you also for following us live on Europe by satellite. Today, 19th of March 2021, a beautiful spring day. Let me start today's announcements with the President's agenda. First, as Eric told you yesterday, President von der Leyen and President Charles Michel of the European Council will meet this afternoon the President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, via video conference. Then next week, on Monday, the President will receive Mr. Heiko Maas, the Foreign Minister of Germany. Wednesday morning, the President will chair the weekly meeting of the College of Commissioners, as every week. Then, in the afternoon of Wednesday, she will deliver a speech at the high-level conference Investing in Climate Action, the Make or Break Decade, which is co-hosted by the European Investment Bank. And later on Wednesday, finally, the President will also participate in the Tripartite Social Summit. Then, on Thursday, President von der Leyen will receive Mr. Janez Janša, the Prime Minister of Slovenia. And on Thursday afternoon and Friday morning, she will, of course, participate in the meeting of the European Council here in Brussels. Now, I would like to give the floor to Adalbert for an announcement following a successful trilogue meeting which took place yesterday.
Thank you, Dana. Hier soir, le Parlement européen, le Conseil et la Commission ont conclu un accord politique en vue de permettre l'entrée en opération d'ici à la fin de l'année prochaine de l'ETIAS, le système européen d'information et d'autorisation concernant les voyages. Une fois l'ETIAS en place, les ressortissants de pays exemptés de l'obligation de visa Schengen devront s'enregistrer et obtenir une autorisation avant leur voyage à destination de l'Union européenne. Avec l'ETIAS, les autorités compétentes pourront identifier à l'avance les personnes susceptibles de présenter un risque pour la sécurité ou la santé, ainsi que vérifier le respect des règles relatives à la migration. L'ETIAS contribuera ainsi à la fois à améliorer la sécurité des Européens et à la mise en œuvre du nouveau pacte sur la migration et l'asile. En termes pratiques pour les voyageurs, l'ETIAS ne sera pas une obligation de visa. Demander une autorisation ETIAS sera simple, rapide et abordable. L'autorisation ETIAS coûtera 7 € et elle sera valable pendant 3 ans et pour des entrées multiples. Nous anticipons que la grande majorité de demandes, probablement plus de 95%, donnera lieu à une approbation automatique. L'accord intervenu hier précise comment l'ETIAS coopérera avec les autres systèmes d'information de l'Union européenne qui l'interrogera lors des vérifications dans le respect intégral des droits fondamentaux, y compris de la protection des données. Plus d'informations dans notre communiqué de presse publié hier.
Merci beaucoup, Adalbert. Et maintenant, nous pouvons passer à vos questions. Veuillez me signaler en levant votre main si vous avez des questions pour nous aujourd'hui. Et je vois effectivement que Odile veut nous poser une question. Odile, vas-y.
Oui, bonjour, merci Dana. C'est peut-être un peu trop juste parce que ça vient de se passer, mais Samia Hassan de Zanzibar est la première femme présidente d'un pays africain suite au décès soudain du président Magufuli de la Tanzanie. Or, on sait que la Tanzanie, non seulement c'est la patrie du Kilimandjaro, mais aussi du port très important de Dar es Salaam, qui est aussi sur les routes les nouvelles routes de la soie de la Chine. Donc, je ne sais pas si vous avez ou vous aurez peut-être une réaction dans les jours qui viennent ou dans les heures qui viennent. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Odile. Tout d'abord, et bien évidemment, nous offrons nos condoléances pour ces tragiques événements qui est survenu il y a très peu de temps. Et deuxièmement, nous allons revenir vers toi avec une déclaration plus de substance. Ce sera fait par Nabila dans les minutes ou heures qui vont suivre le midday briefing. Mais effectivement, nous sommes attristés par cette nouvelle et nous offrons nos condoléances. Je veux voir maintenant qui a d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui. Et je vois que Rita veut nous poser une question. Rita, go ahead.
Hi, Dana. Thank you. My question is on the export ban, vaccines export ban. So can I go ahead, or are you still on foreign relations?
Nobody was on the stage, so
okay.
we can go for other type of questions. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I guess this is for Miriam. Miriam, I was wondering if you could update us on the figures of the mechanism, export mechanism, and also if you could tell us, the Commission President talked about the 33 countries that the EU had exported to. If you could tell us out of those 33, of which were you expecting the reciprocity? So from where would the EU be expecting to have vaccines arriving from? And also if you could tell us if any of those countries have indeed sent vaccines to the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. I will give the floor to Miriam, who will need to connect from a distance. Just a quick word on the name of the mechanism. It is not about an export ban, it is about an export authorization mechanism. But with this, I will give the floor to Miriam to see what figures and new information she can share with you today.
Indeed, thank you, Dana. The correct title is Export Transparency and Authorization Mechanisms. It's not a ban, and it's not our intention to restrict exports as if it's not necessary. So the latest update I can provide is that from the 30th of January to the 16th of March, we approved 314 export requests from us for authorization with the member states, and one was rejected, the one you know from a couple of weeks ago. This amounted to a total of 41.5 million doses, and the export destinations concerned 33 countries. So I don't want to start naming them, but I'm happy to provide bilaterally the list of countries for those journalists that are interested. So don't hesitate to contact me. And then on the reciprocity, I think it's too early at this stage to decide, because this is still an ongoing reflection. Nothing is decided yet. We are considering, as Eric mentioned yesterday during midday, all the tools available to achieve the result that we want to attain, but we don't know yet what will be put in place, so I cannot give further comments.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Indeed, it's about setting the objectives which the President set and explained very clearly in the press room 2 days ago, that of obtaining reciprocity, in particular with the countries that are themselves producing vaccines and which are also the destinations of vaccines produced in the EU. But at this stage, we are looking at the tools that we have to achieve that objective and to see if those are sufficient, if we need to change them, or if we need completely new ones. But that is the most that we can say at this stage. I think that Rita has a follow-up question.
Yes, it's a quick one. Can you tell us at least if any of those countries have sent vaccines into the EU? Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam, do you have any elements of answers to this one?
Yes, I think it's as I explained already, the figures of vaccines are not very clear because we receive them in value and in volume, and we don't receive the number of doses exactly, so we cannot really see the amounts. And then also there is a certain delay in the trace statistics. We only receive them a couple of months later. So unfortunately, I don't have a clear picture to share on the number of vaccines that have been imported.
Thank you, Miriam. I will now invite you to keep your hand raised if you have additional questions for Miriam on the transparency and authorization mechanism in particular. So I believe that Jacobo has a question for Miriam. Jacobo, go ahead.
Hello. So yes, I have a question. I see that Ursula von der Leyen says that if the United Kingdom doesn't export vaccines anymore to the EU, every answer is possible. And you are saying that well, you have not been very clear. What I have just listened from what you have said, for me, it's not very clear which is the means that the European Union has to answer to that. Can you be more specific, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacobo, and allow me to emphasize once again that at this very stage, on Friday, the 19th of March, we can only restate what the objective is, and that is to achieve, first of all, an acceleration of the delivery of vaccines for European citizens. Our first and clear duty is that to provide vaccines for Europeans and to enable and to accelerate the rollout of vaccination campaigns across the European Union to achieve the target that we have set of vaccinated 70% of Europe's adults by the end of the summer. So this is what is our very clear objective. And at this stage, we are looking at all the tools that we have, regulatory or otherwise, in order to achieve that very clear aim. But we haven't specified, and we will not be able to specify at this stage, what those tools would be, because we have launched a review and an assessment of the instruments that we have, and we are in touch with companies to see whether negotiations with the companies would be sufficient to enable an acceleration of the delivery of vaccines in the EU. We are looking at regulatory tools which may be necessary either by adapting the existing tools that we have or by proposing new ones, but you haven't missed anything. We haven't announced anything more specific regarding the tools that we are ready to propose in order to achieve that very important objective. The idea is that the President will wish to discuss with the heads of state and government next week. They will convene on Thursday in Brussels, and they will discuss, as they do at almost all meetings that they have, the situation regarding COVID-19 and vaccination. And the Commission will be ready to play its part to make suggestions, proposals, and take steps to bring us close to that objective of speeding up vaccination in the EU. Are there any additional questions on this very topic? So to Miriam, or in relation to the vaccine authorization mechanism, I think that Quentin may have a question on this. Quentin, is that what you want to ask about? I see that your hand is raised. We can see you, but we can't hear you. So, in case we can't get Quentin right now, we will come back to you later, and I will give the floor to Susanna. Susanna, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, all
Sorry,
good.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a problem with my camera. A follow-up question. Well, I would like to understand, because I read this interview that President von der Leyen gave to some outlets, and she mentioned South Korea as one of the countries that is receiving doses from the EU but not exporting to the EU. I would like to understand what exactly would you be expecting from South Korea? Are we talking about AstraZeneca's doses, Pfizer? What exactly are we expecting from South Korea? Thank you.
Question, Susanna. I would not like to go into the specifics of what vaccines each country produces and what vaccines the European Union is using. The idea is that for the vaccines that we use in the European Union, if those are exported to other countries that also produce vaccines that are used in the European Union, it is a matter of fairness that as vaccines go out, vaccines also come in. But the President just gave an example to emphasize the point that the European Union is indeed a big production hub for vaccines, but it shouldn't bear the sole responsibility for delivering vaccines to the world. So that's why it was very important that other countries that produce vaccines also export to the European Union or elsewhere in order to enable the rollout of vaccination campaigns in Europe and elsewhere. Thank you. Susanna, I think you have a follow-up question.
Yes, I do think it's important to understand what vaccine or what company are we talking about? Because if Pfizer is complying with the commitments, if Moderna is complying with commitments, and if Johnson & Johnson is supposed to also to comply with the agreements, so what exactly are we talking about? What is the problem with exporting from EU to other member states, or sorry, to outside EU? I don't understand why do you need reciprocity when companies are complying with the agreements? And if the problem is only with AstraZeneca, so we should be focusing on.
Thank you, Susanna. I think we lost Susanna, or at least the sound broke down. We tried to get her back. Do we have Susanna back on the line? No. So I give Jonathan a few seconds to get her back, but that's not the case. So we will get back to Susanna a little bit later so that she can finish articulating her question. I see that Quentin has another question, so his hand is up. Quentin.
Hey, Lodana, are you able to hear me?
Yes, all good.
Yes, all good. We hear you.
Excellent, thanks. No, it's on the vaccines, but I guess for Stefan, not for Miriam. Would it be possible to have an update on the letter you were supposed to send to the companies? Did you receive the feedback from the member states? Do you have the intention to release the letter? And if you can explain maybe the content of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kat. Good afternoon. No, I will not say anything on the content of the letter, and I don't think I can add a lot to what has been said yesterday. The Commission has the intention to send such letter to the company. It is being discussed with the member states, and then following these discussions, the letter can be sent, of course, if there's an agreement with the member states. But as far as the content is concerned, I don't think I can go into the details. You know that the philosophy or the objective of this letter is to discuss diverging points of view and to try to reach between Commission and company an agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions for Stefan on this subject of vaccine supply and deliveries? I bet there are. So I see that James has a question. James.
Yes, hi there, Diana. James Fraley from the Daily Mail. And just sort of a quick one. I don't know if you want to join me in passing on condolences to the staff of Politico and the family of Stephen Brown. I don't know if you're aware, but it seems, according to a newsletter sent out by by Politico just prior to this midday, that he passed away, sadly, last night. So just all our condolences, of course, to our colleagues at Politico. Just a quick question, if I may. Just really, why has no EU commissioner resigned yet over this vaccine rollout? I mean, the Irish commissioner, Phil Hogan, had to leave his post over breaking social distancing rules at a golf club. So I'm just wondering why no EU commissioner has offered their resignation as yet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. So first of all, on the first point that you mentioned, we are very saddened by the passing of Stephen. which was very shocking and unexpected. We are in touch with political staff, and we were preparing to offer our condolences in a formal way before the end of this midday briefing. But thank you very much for having accelerated it. Indeed, this is a shock to our communicators community and to the Brussels community, and we are extremely saddened. We are offering our condolences to his colleagues, to his team, and of course to his family. On this second question that you asked, James, as you know, the vaccine rollout and speeding up of vaccination campaigns is a major priority for the European Commission, which works hand in hand with the member states in order to ensure that Europeans have access to vaccines, to safe and effective vaccines, as quickly as possible, in the best conditions possible, and making sure that this will enable us to control the COVID-19 pandemics. We are sharing with you every day the numerous actions that we are taking in order to achieve that goal. You are aware of the panoply of actions that we have taken to not only to help develop a vaccine, because allow me to remind you that the European Union's contribution to the development of vaccines is very important through the research and development funding that has been delivered over many years in some of the companies that are now the champions of COVID-19 vaccines. We have also secured timely contracts for very important volumes of COVID vaccines. We have safe and effective vaccines approved on the EU market, and the rollout continues and is accelerating. You have been hearing the announcements that we have made recently about the positives, some accelerations from some companies, about the negatives, some companies that were unable to meet their delivery schedules. This is a matter which the European Commission puts at the center of its political agenda, and work continues on all fronts to deliver that. Thank you. I think that, James, you have a follow-up.
Yes, apologies, Dana. I mean, ultimately, you said that in your answer there, surely the political responsibility, whatever we think of the behaviour of, the specific company involved, AstraZeneca, the political buck stops with, the politicians, the European Commission. So, just really my same question again: is anybody planning to offer their resignation in terms of, what's been going on with these contracts? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your repeating the question, James. My answer will remain the same. Our full attention, our full energy is dedicated to ensuring that Europeans have vaccines as quickly as possible, and safe and effective vaccines, to achieve our target of vaccination, which was restated and re-emphasized this week again. I will now give the floor to other colleagues who have questions about this matter of vaccine delivery. I believe that Verena has her hand raised with the intention to ask a question about that. Verena, go ahead.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, we can see you.
Super. I have two questions. Just one little follow-up on the letter to Stefan. It was my understanding from the interview the President gave that the letter has been sent, while I understood you to say that it's still being discussed with the Member States. Could you clarify maybe? And the other question is, following the EMA recommendation yesterday, legal experts again raised the issue of indemnification and liability, and in particular an Austrian legal expert said basically that the risk of liability is broadly pushed over to the member states in the EU side. Maybe you could again clarify that, what type of risk the member states run who now decided to restart the use of this vaccine. Thank you.
Very much. So, Verena, on the first question, allow me to say that the letter is in the process of being sent. I can't, and neither can Stefan at this stage, tell you exactly at which sort of level of the pipeline it is, but it is in the process of being sent. As for the second question, Stefan, perhaps you want to take it.
Thank you, Verena. On liability, nothing has really changed here in the sense that in all our contracts, including in the contract with AstraZeneca, the company is liable on the basis of the EU rules on product liability. So the liability lies with the company. That's a general principle, which was very important for us because it ensures good protection of our citizens. So liability lies with the companies. However, in some specific cases, the company may request to the member state indemnification. This is also covered by the contract. In the contract of AstraZeneca, you will see that it's laid down in Article 14, if I'm not mistaken, but parts of this clause are redacted. So, nevertheless, in spite of the fact that there is a possibility of indemnification, the company remains liable. So the principle is indeed liability of the companies. I cannot, because of some parts of the contract are redacted, I cannot go into the specificities of what specific situations would give lead to specific indemnification. But I can say you that the responsibility, the liability is with the company, and that some of the financial consequences in the context of indemnification go to the member states. The result of this process is that the rights of the European citizens are protected. When there is an issue, the company is liable, the company will have to compensate, or in specific cases may request the member state to compensate. So the rights of the citizens are protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. I will invite you to keep your hand raised if you have additional questions for Stefan on this subject. I see that David's hand is raised. David, go ahead.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Je voulais poser deux questions. La première, c'est à propos de Moderna. Si on regarde les chiffres des doses qui étaient attendues par les États membres et des doses qui ont été effectivement livrées jusqu'à maintenant, on voit qu'il y a une différence assez substantielle. Je voulais savoir donc si Moderna, à votre avis, respecte les engagements contractuels et comment vous expliquez cette différence qui est plus ou moins la même qu'avec AstraZeneca par rapport aux objectifs de 40 millions mais non 30 millions. Deuxième question, c'est une question politique. Je n'ai pas eu l'occasion de la poser à la présidente de la Commission parce qu'on ne m'a pas donné la parole pendant la conférence de presse, mais donc je te la pose. La Belgique est en train de fermer. Aujourd'hui, il y aura une décision. Hier, c'était la France. Vous avez demandé des sacrifices en disant « ça va être les derniers ». On va faire des sacrifices pour éviter la troisième vague. Ça, c'était pendant le mois de décembre et au début du mois de janvier. Maintenant, la troisième vague est là. On va avoir des lockdowns, et tout ça, les écoles fermées, blabla. En vue de tout ça, est-ce que vous acceptez la responsabilité politique de la situation actuelle, vu qu'il n'y a pas les doses de vaccins desquelles l'Union européenne aurait besoin pour éviter, aurait eu besoin pour éviter cette troisième vague. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Sur la question de Moderna, Stéphane, je te donne la parole.
Merci beaucoup, David. En ce qui concerne Moderna, nous sommes évidemment avec Moderna, comme avec toutes les sociétés, avec tous les laboratoires de vaccins, en dialogue, et c'est très important, pour suivre les livraisons, le nombre de doses qui sont livrées ou qui doivent être livrées. Je pense que la présidente a été très claire en ce qui concerne la société Moderna. aussi sur les autres sociétés, lorsqu'elle a indiqué que pour le premier trimestre, nous nous attendons à des livraisons de 10 millions de doses de Moderna, et pour le deuxième trimestre, Moderna livrera 35 millions de doses. Ce sont des chiffres que nous avons obtenus sur base, évidemment, de nos contacts très réguliers avec cette société, tout comme on a des contacts très réguliers avec les autres sociétés. Et c'est sur cette base que nous continuons à travailler dans le but, justement, d'atteindre l'objectif de 70% de vaccination de la population adulte. Merci.
Sur ce qui est ta deuxième question, David, effectivement, nous avons vu les mesures qui sont en train d'être prises dans certains de nos États membres, qui sont les conséquences du fait que le nombre des infections continue ou ont repris à la hausse dans certains pays. Et ça, malgré le fait qu'il y a eu des formes plus ou moins restrictives de mesures qui étaient en place dans des différents pays. Effectivement, la présidente l'a elle-même dit lors de sa conférence de presse il y a 2 jours. Nous voyons qu'il y a peut-être une troisième vague qui se forme dans beaucoup de nos pays. D'autres sont déjà ou considèrent être déjà dans cette troisième vague. La bonne nouvelle étant que le taux de mortalité a baissé dans nombre des pays liés à beaucoup de facteurs, aussi au fait que nous avons des meilleurs traitements peut-être en place. Nous avons appris des mois successifs de la pandémie comment mieux traiter les patients dans les soins intensifs. Lié aussi peut-être à des différents variants du virus, dont certains sont plus infectieux, mais ont tendance peut-être à provoquer des formes moins graves de la maladie, et aussi à cause de la vaccination qui progresse dans l'Union européenne et qui offre la protection pour les personnes qui ont déjà été vaccinées. En ce qui concerne la progression de la vaccination, c'est une des raisons que la présidente a clairement expliqué, qui est à l'origine de notre position de vouloir accélérer considérablement les déroulements de la vaccination dans l'Union européenne, parce que nous voyons cette troisième vague qui arrive peu à peu ou plus vite dans certains pays. Nous avons tous passé par des sacrifices importants. Les Européens ont passé une période dure. Ils ont dû faire des sacrifices au niveau personnel, familial, social. Du point de vue économique, nous passons par une étape très dure. Notre économie est affectée par cela. Et c'est pour cela que la présidente a dit il faut que la vaccination, que le progrès de la vaccination s'accélère. Nous avons pris les mesures dans l'ordre que je viens de mentionner à la question précédente pour s'assurer que les conditions sont en place pour que nous ayons des quantités de vaccins nécessaires. Nous avons eu des points positifs. Nous avons eu des soucis dans la production de certains vaccins qui ont causé les problèmes de delivery que vous connaissez tous. Et donc, la position très claire de la Commission européenne à ce stade-ci est que nous devons, avec les États membres, prendre les mesures qui sont nécessaires pour accélérer la vaccination dans l'Union européenne. Je pense que tu as une question de suivi, David. Vas-y.
Oui, 2 questions de suivi. La première, c'est sur Moderna. Vu que pour l'instant, par rapport aux objectifs des 10 millions de doses premier trimestre, on est à 30-40%, ça dépend des États membres. Comment c'est possible que dans les prochains 10 jours, arrive le 60% de ces doses, Stéphane? Deuxième question de suivi, Dana, moi je parle de responsabilité politique. Donc, on a passé 1 an comme on l'a passé, tu as bien décrit la situation. Je crois qu'une majorité des citoyens européens ont respecté les règles, ont subi des conséquences. D'un côté, il y a les gouvernements nationaux et donc ils peuvent attribuer une responsabilité politique aux gouvernements nationaux. Moi, je voudrais savoir s'ils peuvent attribuer la responsabilité politique de ce qui se passe en ce moment au niveau européen à la Commission et à la présidente de la Commission.
Moderna.
Oui, merci beaucoup David. Sur Moderna, je ne vais pas me prononcer sur la manière dont la société devrait ou ne devrait pas exécuter le contrat ou assurer la livraison des doses sur lesquelles on s'est mis d'accord avec la société. Je tiens quand même à souligner que au début, le lancement de la production était difficile pour toute la société. On voit quand même un accroissement important de la capacité de production chez les sociétés. Donc ça, c'est quand même un élément important à souligner. Sinon, nous continuons, comme j'ai dit, à rester en contact avec la société, avec toutes les sociétés, pour voir s'il y a des problèmes ou pas et pour assurer qu'on ait les livraisons d'un nombre suffisant de doses comme ça a été convenu avec la ou les sociétés. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, David, pour avoir relancé ta question. Je te répondrai de manière claire. Notre responsabilité primordiale politiquement est d'assurer que les Européens auront accès à leur vaccin aussi vite que possible. C'est dans cet esprit-là que la présidente a annoncé cette semaine que nous allons établir des objectifs clairs et nous allons nous doter des instruments clairs pour accélérer la vaccination pour les Européens. Elle a affirmé notre but de protéger par des vaccins, de vacciner, de faire vacciner 70%, 70% de la population adulte en Europe en été. Et chaque jour que nous pouvons gagner vers cet objectif pour le rendre plus proche, nous nous réjouissons de cela. Mais c'est ça notre responsabilité primordiale, de travailler sur tous les fronts, avec tous les outils que nous avons, en coopération avec les États membres, les compagnies et tout acteur qui est important dans ces processus pour apporter des vaccins pour les Européens. Je pense que Oliver a une question maintenant à ce sujet, peut-être. Oliver.
Hi, Dana. Yeah, I mean, just for the record, because it was part of the group interview yesterday with the president as well, she said there that the letter of notice to AstraZeneca had already been sent. So, I mean, please just make sure next time that such simple chronological facts are, presented in a way that is not confusing. I have a question on something that is becoming more and more popular in many member states, and I'd like the Commission's opinion on this. It's public vaccinations of politicians. Politicians getting publicly vaccinated in order to sort of reassure, skeptical citizens that this or that vaccine is safe. Do you think this is a good idea? Or do you think it's rather a bad idea because it shows that some politicians have the privilege to get vaccinated earlier than they would be if they were ordinary citizens of the same age? So are public vaccinations of politicians a good idea? And would, for example, the Commission President consider doing this in an effort to boost trust in vaccines? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver. There are many angles to your question. So first of all, is it proper for politicians to be vaccinated at this stage of the vaccination rollout, considering that depending on their age, circumstances, health situation, they may not be what you or some other people may consider priority targets? Well, what I can say is that it is for the national governments to establish what are the priority groups that are subject to vaccination in successive waves, and when is whose turn to get vaccinated. So it wouldn't be proper for me to comment whether European leaders who are getting vaccinated should have been vaccinated at that time, earlier or later. It depends on the priorities established for vaccinating the population in that member state. The second aspect of your question refers to that of politicians as role models, because it is a fact that everywhere in the world, but in Europe and in the European Union as well, certain people, certain citizens are hesitant about vaccines in general. It is the well-known phenomenon of vaccine hesitancy for many reasons. I believe that it's extremely important that public authorities do explain the benefits of vaccines. The concept of role model is powerful, so certain politicians choose to use their role as role models in order to show their citizens that they trust in the vaccines and that they decide to get vaccinated. As to whether the president will do that, well, I can tell you that the president will receive her vaccine when it will be her turn, according to the Belgian government's rules, because we in the European Commission follow the rules in terms of sequencing of vaccination that are established by our host country here. I will talk to her about a possible vaccination which would be immortalized in images or in footage to see whether this is apt to be a public event. But what I can tell you is that for the president, it is important that citizens trust vaccines and accept to be vaccinated. And indeed, role models are an important part of the effort to pass that message. I believe that Tommaso now has a question. Tommaso.
Yes, good afternoon, Tommaso Galabatti in Kronos Italy. Thank you for the opportunity. It's on liability, if I may, for Stefan. I know you are not going to give many details, but I just wonder, the part of the contract of AstraZeneca which has been redacted after a request from the company or after a request from the member states? And the second question, if I may, the possible very extremely rare side effects identified for the AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday as possible very rare side effects by the EMA. I mean, this kind of side effects are impossible to foresee because they're 1 in a million, and clinical trials are conducted on tens of thousands of individuals. So it would be only reasonable if the company were exempted from liability, if there is a waiver from liability in these cases. May you confirm that this is the case for this kind of extremely rare and unforeseeable side effects? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As far as the redaction of the parts of the country is concerned, I think we've made clear a couple of times in this press briefing room that we are very much in favor of publicizing, of making the contracts with the companies public. This is something that we believe is very important in the context of transparency. Of course, we have to take into account that this is a contract which is concluded with another party, a company, which may have some requests to ensure confidentiality of some of the clauses. So what has been redacted is normally redacted following requests of the company. That's one thing. Second, as far as liability is concerned, as I said, the principle of the contract, as is the case with all other contracts with the other companies, is liability of the company. That's the basic principle. There's only situations where, when the company is held liable, it may request member states to indemnify. I don't think I am in a position to go into a very detailed assessment of which kind of specific cases would lead to which kind of liability and whether there would be any ground for indemnification. To start with, again, the indemnification issues are considered to be confidential and therefore redacted. But even then, I don't think we can go into such a very detailed assessment of which specific cases would lead to which type of liability. But again, the principles that we have insisted on during the negotiations with all the companies is that we want to make sure there is a liability, solid liability of the companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. I will now give the floor to Isabel.
Bonjour. La Haute Autorité française de santé vient de recommander que le vaccin AstraZeneca soit réservé aux gens qui ont plus de 55 ans. Donc une décision qui est prise à la suite de l'avertissement de l'EMA sur les thromboses. Je voulais savoir ce que vous en pensiez, si ça vous paraissait excessif et si vous craignez qu'éventuellement ça fasse tache d'huile dans d'autres pays. Merci.
Merci beaucoup Isabelle. Comme j'ai expliqué à plusieurs reprises avant, nous suivons une approche scientifique. Et l'approche scientifique, c'est celle qui est établie par nos collègues de l'Agence des médicaments européens. Donc nous suivons cette approche-là. Les États membres ont la possibilité d'imposer des approches plus strictes que celle qui est suivie par l'EMA. Ce n'est pas la Commission de nous prononcer sur le bien fondé ou pas d'une décision d'une haute autorité dans le domaine de la santé. Ce qui est important pour nous, c'est que nous suivons les recommandations de l'EMA. Les États membres ont la possibilité sur base de la spécificité et les circonstances spécifiques de leur pays, d'appliquer ou de suivre une approche plus stricte. Merci.
Merci beaucoup Stéphane. Je vous invite désormais à lever la main si vous avez d'autres questions pour Stéphane aujourd'hui au sujet de la vaccination et des vaccins. Ça ne semble pas être le cas, donc merci Stéphane. Tu t'en es bien sorti aujourd'hui avec pas plus qu'une heure. Merci. Je vous donne désormais la possibilité à poser d'autres questions. Je pense que Fabio a une question sur un autre sujet. Fabio, vas-y.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the floor. This is Fabio Napoli for Policy Europe News Agency. My question is on CAP. The next week will be a super trialogue on March 26. So my question is, can the Commission tell us what will be the agenda of this kind of super trialogue, and what are the main issues then are still on the table, and what are the wishes the Commission in the view of this super trialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabio. I will try to connect with Miriam to give you an answer on the question of the super trilogue.
Yes, indeed. Next Friday, there will be a super trialogue that has been convened by the Portuguese presidency. We will address all the topics on the table on the CAP reform, which includes the common organization of the market, the strategic regulation, and the horizontal regulation, and the national strategic plans. The aim of the Portuguese presidency is to conclude on the reform of the common agricultural policy before the summer. We, as the European Commission, we intend to play a full role to facilitate and to make sure we conclude in the shortest time possible. But at this stage, of course, we don't know what will be the final outcome, so I cannot really comment further.
Thank you very much. Do you have any additional questions for Miriam on this subject or on other subjects linked to the common agricultural policy? No hand raised, so then Miriam, you can relax. And I see now that Mathieu has his hand raised. Mathieu.
Oui, bonjour. Une question, c'est sur la saisine de la Cour à l'encontre du Royaume-Uni concernant une aide d'État à Gibraltar. Je comprends que donc après le Brexit, il est toujours possible de saisir le Royaume-Uni devant la Cour. Lorsqu'une décision de la Commission a été prise avant que le Royaume-Uni quitte l'Union européenne. Mais est-ce que cela concerne des décisions qui sont uniquement liées à des questions de concurrence, ou c'est vraiment des décisions de la Commission dans tous les secteurs d'activité dans lesquels le Royaume-Uni était impliqué quand il était membre de l'UE? Et est-ce que vous avez une idée du nombre de décisions comme celle-là de la Commission qui peuvent potentiellement entraîner un contentieux visant le Royaume-Uni auprès de la Cour, sachant que le Royaume-Uni, l'une des raisons pour lesquelles il a voulu quitter l'UE, c'était de ne plus être soumis à la juridiction de la Cour. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Mathieu. Permets-moi d'essayer de comprendre si tu veux une question sur les cas spécifiques que tu mentionnes ou si en général, sur quoi porte, que contient l'accord avec le Royaume-Uni et dans quel cas on peut amener le Royaume-Uni devant la Cour. J'aimerais juste cette clarification pour savoir quel porte-parole j'inviterai sur scène pour te donner une réponse.
Non, c'est une question vraiment très générale. Ça ne concerne pas le cas en soi, mais c'est sur les procédures qui visiblement demeurent possibles. Et donc c'est intéressant pour ça de savoir quelles sont toutes les configurations, les cas possibles où le Royaume-Uni peut encore être traduit devant la Cour par la Commission.
Merci beaucoup, Mathieu. Et c'est pour cela que Dan m'a rejoint sur le podium pour te répondre.
Merci Dana et bonjour Mathieu, merci pour ta question. Sur ta première question, dans l'accord de retrait, non, il n'y a pas de prévision uniquement liée à la concurrence, à la domaine de concurrence, mais sur n'importe quel sujet et sur n'importe quelle procédure qui est en cours ou qui a commencé avant la fin de la période de transition. Sur ta deuxième question, non, je n'ai pas de chiffre exact devant moi maintenant, mais je peux regarder et je peux revenir vers toi avec le chiffre exact.
Merci beaucoup, Dan. Est-ce que vous avez d'autres questions pour Dan à ce stade? So please only keep your hand raised at this stage if you have a question for Dan. I believe that Catherine has a question for Dan on Brexit.
Well, I'm not sure that it's on Brexit per se, but it's also about recovering the funds. And the EU's anti-fraud office, OLAF, found that the UK had failed to take measures in its customs requirements, and as a result, the EU wanted to recover, I think it was 2.7 billion in lost customs duties. And I'm just wondering, I think that was challenged by the UK, but I'm just wondering where that's at. Is that going forward? Is there any progress on recovering those duties? Thank you.
I think this would fall under my hat as spokesperson for customs as well.
Indeed.
And taxation. Catherine, I don't have the very latest on this. I would definitely have to check with the experts. As you know, this has been an ongoing process, but let me check and I'll come back to you just to be sure.
Thank you, Dan. Do you have any additional questions for Dan at this stage on his portfolios for which he was called on stage today? So please raise your hand if that's the case. I don't see that. So thank you, Dan. Do you have any other questions for us today on other subjects? That doesn't seem to be the case. So then allow me to finish again by expressing our condolences and our sadness following the passing of Stephen Brown last night. We are saddened, and we are with his colleagues and with his relatives, and we will pay on Monday, in agreement with Politico's office, an homage to Stephen. With this sad news, have a good rest of the day.